the detail to the hammerhead and the spike. So I've got the head here isolated, and I've got 7 divisions added up to about 1 million, almost 2 million polygons here. So now I want to start to do a little bit of sculpting, and the first thing I want to do is just kind of smooth off some of these edges just a little bit to give the indication that it's been worn down just a little bit. So I'm going to go down to maybe a little bit of a lower subdivision, and then come in with my smooth brush and just run it very quickly over some of these edges. And you don't have to be very exact. In fact, you want it to look kind of haphazard and worn a little bit, but you want it to kind of make sense of where it is worn. So maybe on these corners where it's been hammered on a lot, it's kind of smoothed out a little bit. Okay, maybe down here as well. You could use your symmetry if you wanted to make it exactly the same on both sides. So I'll just kind of break this up a little bit. Okay, go down the line and just kind of break some of that up, just so it's a little bit more irregular. Alright, now back up at level 7, I'm going to go ahead and quickly add some surface detail in this. I'm not going to add too much sculpted detail in here as far as, large shapes, but we can start to add some detail of the metal there. So I'm going to go ahead and get the standard brush. Let's get a drag rectangle stroke, and let's choose an alpha, maybe something like that. We'll go to Z subtract, and let's test this out. That's a little bit too much. So I'm going to go ahead and dial that intensity way down, maybe down to something like 8 or so. And I'll just start dragging that across just to add a little bit of that metal, kind of beat up metal look to it. And that might be a little bit too much, but I think it'll work for us. So just go ahead and drag that across. Now maybe up here we can start coming in here and adding some of this, but maybe up here where this is worn, where everything is really been, all the abuse is happening right here. At that point, you probably want to go back in and now just kind of smooth that out. So it's been hammered on so much that, this is probably fairly smooth up here on this front part. So you can kind of blend that in with whatever texture you have for your metal. Okay. Remember, this isn't the color or anything. This is just the kind of the sculpted detail that we have here. Okay, so I'll just do kind of one side, and you can repeat that on the other side. We could also add some scratches, so we could come in with something like maybe the slash. Okay, come in here and start to add a few scratches. Okay, so just real quickly, and it might be over here, and now maybe across the edges, and who knows what happened in these different areas. And so just kind of some larger and some smaller. Maybe some are a little bit deeper and shorter, while others are a little bit longer. Okay, so just kind of add some details from these scratches. Maybe a lot of them extend back from the front where this has been swung in a particular direction, and it's caught certain things and scratched them back in this direction. Just however it makes sense to you. Okay, maybe there's some scratches coming out from the center a little bit. Okay, a lot of abuse has happened up here, so there's maybe a few more dings and scratches up at the front here. So really just have a little bit of fun and kind of bring that across. Now we can add a little bit more of a broken feel to this by going to our standard brush with our alpha, and now instead of using this as a sort of texture for this, we can kind of use it to knock off some of these corners a little bit. So add a little bit of intensity, and then just along these corners you can kind of break that up a little bit, get that a little bit deeper in there, and then you get something like that. I'm going to leave this a little bit smoother up at these corners, but maybe back inside here this is kind of broken up a little bit. So something like that. These are just some things to try. Let's go ahead and add the texture on the cylinder part. So we'll kind of drag some of this metal texture across here, and then whatever kind of ornamental thing you want to put in the middle. I'm thinking maybe just a simple skull would be good, so I'm going to go to standard brush, turn off the alpha, and then I'll just create just kind of a simple, kind of a skull look. And I want it to look like it's kind of been carved by the owner of the hammer, so I don't want it to look very finished. I want it to look kind of sort of handmade. So I'll just kind of sculpt in an area here, and then go ahead and bring that maybe out here a little bit. Kind of smooth that out where that's been hammered out. Bring that out a little bit, smooth it back in. Okay. Kind of push that in on the eyes and smooth it out a little bit. So just really sort of irregular. Okay. For the teeth, and so I just got the kind of the indication of the eyes here. And I'm going to go ahead and just use the move brush to just kind of pull those down a little bit. Come back in and smooth them out. All right. Just kind of bring those in. And so once I've got the sort of the eyes there, I'm just going to use the slash brush that we used earlier to create the teeth. So it's as if they just kind of taken a blade and just cut these in. So I'm just going to be very loose with them. Get my intensity up a little bit more. And just do something, just some slashes, kind of like that. Okay, and you can emphasize that a little bit more with your standard brush if you want to. And come in here at a lower level and just kind of emphasize where that's been pulled out, if you want to do that. Push those sockets in a little bit more, the nose socket. Okay, so just have a little fun with it. You don't have to do a skeleton or a skull. You could do something else if you wanted to. And we could emphasize that with some paint that's been kind of slashed on there, some dye or whatever it is that they're using. But so just kind of use these techniques to finish out the rest of the detail on the hammerhead. We're not doing anything too drastic. Just kind of create some wear and tear on it, some scratches that we can bring out in the texture in the normal map and so forth. So I'll go ahead and now work on the spike. And let's do the same thing on the spike. Now for the spike, I want to, before I divide it, I want to go ahead and turn this subdivide smooth modifier off, just so it will hold its shape a little bit better. Okay, and now we'll go ahead and divide it a few times. And let's go ahead, and the main thing will be to, I'm going to add this metal texture to this. Alright, so I'm going to go across this surface and just kind of break it up a little bit. And this thing's going to be pretty rough as well. It's been through a lot, kind of takes the brunt of a lot of the damage that this thing is going to do. So let's go ahead and just break this up a little bit. Maybe increase the intensity and come in along some of the areas that stick out a little bit more and create a little bit more wear and tear on those areas. So maybe down in here, up on the pieces that stick out, up here a little bit maybe. And just kind of break that up a little. Alright. Same kind of thing that we did with the other piece. Maybe inside here there's a little bit more wear and tear going on. Alright, so just do a little bit of work on that. So I'm going to finish up the other half of the hammerhead, and then in the next lesson we'll look at doing some poly painting, so actually painting some color onto the head and also the tip of our hammer. So we'll do that next.